Hey guys, this is Barry's Best Honey. I'm Mike and I do bees. Come along with me on my 2020 beekeeping season and see how I do it my way in my area of Louisiana and what I've learned from my mentors over the years. How I keep bees. I'm going to take you through the whole 2020 season. I've already started a few videos back. So come on out to the bee yard with me. Today we're going to go check the sugar stores on the one hive we checked last week. I think it should be completely gone now, and we're going to refill it. And we're going to take a look at that light hive that I found and go ahead and put some sugar on it. That's emergency feeding for me. We're getting ready to have a really cool front. It's about 60 degrees right now. It's beautiful weather. I think it's 63. Beautiful day. Sun's just coming out, so we're going to go take a quick peek at that one hive while I'm putting sugar on. I'm going to go ahead and open it up and take a look and take you guys along with me. See where it's at. It may not need sugar, but we're going to go take a look. And if it does, we're going to put that sugar on. If you're curious what I'm doing with the sugar, look up top. Why? Look up top. I'm going to put a link to the video where I explained what I did and how I did with the sugar and what the purpose was. And I'll go through it a little bit out here. But for the most part, we're going to take a quick run to the hives. I'm going to take you along, and we're going to take a look at these bees and see how they're doing. All right, guys, let's get busy. Okay, here we are. Bees are all pretty much returning to the hive. Some of them got pollen on them. Dark green pollen, a light green, yellow. All right, this is the hive we're going to check out right here. Now, this is why I don't open them in winter normally, but I know this hive is light. I'll show you why I don't open them in just a second, but that's propolis, and they have, that was all the way open, and they have cleaned it and glued it shut. It's completely glued shut, and to get in there I'm gonna have to break that loose, and they'll have to glue it back, and it's gonna get cold in a couple days. But here in the south we'll stay cold for 2 days or so, and then it'll be warm back up. So that's the plan of action. Let's get busy. Okay, so here we go. Get a little smoke on them. Here it's breaking. That's the propolis. I'm putting a little bit extra smoke on just because it's kind of starting to get overcast and there has been some weather. Oh, look at that cluster. See them small hive beetles? Look at that. And that's another reason not to break them open. And you get these beetles everywhere and you let them loose. You just squish them fast as you can. So they take these beetles and they trap them in a lot of these little areas. They hold them. So as we as beekeepers thinking we're doing the greatest thing by going in and inspecting our bees, like I'm doing right now, when we break those little beetle jails open, and then that allows the beetles to run around. They'll trap them back up, but it's just more work for the bees. When they're getting cool, they're going to want to stay in their cluster. So see, there's where they had them. They had them in there. They had the beetles trapped in here, and you can see it. You can see where they had them. So, and they were probably guarding these entrances, or there was a little more propolis. They were guarding this one. So they'll put them back in. But let's throw a little smoke to them. They're a little excited about us being in here right now. Let's see what their honey stores look like. Let's do some inspecting. It's not a bad looking hive. It's been so warm, the queen has already begun to lay in most of these hives. So they're going to build up fast in the spring, probably. All right. Yeah, they're not. I'm mainly checking for honey. Let's see how much honey they have. A little bit of honey there. I'm just going to check real quick. They feel light, and this is a decent sized hive, so they're definitely getting sugar. Yeah, they're light. They're very light. No honey in these combs. They're getting a little excited now. They haven't been opened up in so long. They're not caring for this too much. You see pollen on some of the bees. And there's, of course, I don't know if you can see the pollen in the frames. Yeah, that's enough to tell me they're light. I'm not going to disturb them anymore. They look healthy. Another thing about going through the hives too much, well, actually I do want to see if the queen's laying. You gotta be careful, you don't want to harm your queen. And if there was no need to go in and all of a sudden you harmed your queen, well then you're up the creek there without a paddle, because especially now if she's not laying, you've got no eggs to make a new queen. I just want to see if she's putting any eggs in. Yeah, she is. There's fresh larvae in there. But she's laying right now. And I'm not going to look too hard for eggs. That just tells me she's starting to brood up a little bit. Let's take this one frame out. Problem too when they begin to brood up is they require honey, and there's none coming in. Look at that, she's definitely brooding up. That's a good looking queen. That's a good solid pattern. This hive, yeah, there's the other side, and there's fresh larvae. And I can't see the eggs that well, but I'll take a look with I have a magnifying glass. And if it's too much, then I put a pen light on it as well. And there's eggs in there. So, yep, she's trying to start up early on us. And she's probably on another frame due to the amount of bees I see over here. Let's take a look. See, that's the thing. I say I'm not going to go through it much, but I haven't been in hives in so long. I just want to go through it. Every beekeeper wants to find his queen. I'm actually going to stop after this frame whether I see her or not, because I've seen eggs, and that's good enough to tell me when I see eggs the queen was there 3 days ago, and I know she's in here because this hive hasn't been disturbed. Everything was normal with them. They were coming and going, bringing in pollen, everything looked normal, so they're queen right. Just concerned about the amount of food, and now that's confirmed. And I have a lot of beetles. Probably should put a beetle trap in here. Now the beetle trap, they corral the beetles the same way, but by putting the beetle trap in, they corral them in that trap, and inside that trap is some, usually I just put in canola oil from the kitchen, and it kills those beetles. So the benefit of the trap is once they run them in that trap, they die. Here they run them in here and they just have to hold them. But I'm not going to get a trap right now. say that, I actually have time. I might put the lid on and go grab a trap. Just throw this on real quick and I'm gonna go grab a trap. Alright guys, here's my trap. Brandon got it real quick. It's called a beetle blaster. That's what I use. Buy them at any bee vendor. I've used them for a few years. Canola oil. I get to clean. I keep it fresh. I don't want it rancid. Although I don't know if that matters. But so I take this condiment bottle. And these are used one time. I don't clean them out or anything like that. I just fill about a quarter of the way up. Canola oil. Here's what we're going to do. Throw a little smoke. And see, I can set this sideways. I can set it on the side. It doesn't leak. I'm going to put it right in here because they're trapping beetles in through here. And just wax off. Get off there. Okay. And I simply take that trap. I'll put a second one in actually. And I'll stick that trap right in here. Yeah, put it down flush now. The beetles, when you open the hive now, what they'll do is they'll hide under here. You got to keep it flat, and then when you open the hive, the first thing you do is run it across like so. I might move that over a little bit. Let's move that over a bit. There's some comb down there that's got it disturbed. There we go. That's better. Let's fill another one up real quick. And again, it only takes about a quarter of the way full. That's what I do. That's what works for me. Put one on this side. Actually, I'll stick one right here. That frame is cattywampus, so I'm not going to put it there. Okay. Alright, there you go. So I got to be careful with the sugar now. I want to leave those open so they can trap those beetles. Now, a lot of people don't like those traps because when you grab a box, you tilt it up too far, you'll spill it, and you will. You got to be careful. You got to remember you have them. If you don't, you will make a mess. Sorry, bees. Now this propolis, you save that stuff, you can make antiseptic out of that. All right, so let's get this shim on. This piece of newspaper. I'm actually gonna I'm just gonna put the whole thing on. I'm gonna open up the traps. Remember, I take a little bit of water. It goes ahead and it's warm out today. I'm a trap. Let's keep the sugar off of that. And they'll clean all this paper out as they eat through it. Hives are, bees know to clean their hive out. And they do a good job at it. Hair is better when it's wet, huh? There we go. There we go. So we're gonna do that and that. Yeah, that'll probably give them some access up here as well. Newsprint doesn't hurt them. People have been using it for years. All right. Yes. I like the surface to be wet where I put it. And I saw the brood nest over here. That's where I want it. This hive has hardly any honey, so I'm getting quite a bit. You can do it all kinds of fancy ways. I've done it all kinds of different ways. I've even had, I know people take this bag, cut it, and lay it down there and let them eat through the bag. But this has worked well for me. I'm gonna keep on doing it. I'll explain a little more when I get done on the way back in. Alrighty, I think that's gonna do it because I need to save a little bit for that other hive. I'll put 2 pounds of sugar in here. Let's see what they do. Now, clean this lid off a little bit so it seals well. I really hate doing that, but taking all that propolis off, but in the end they need to just feed. They need to just feed in a pretty bad way. I say a bad way. I mean, they weren't going to starve in the next couple weeks, but alright, let's move this back. Alright, that's it. That's all she wrote. Throw this old brick back on top. That's it. Alright, so that's where we're at with that hive. So we quickly put some traps in. I ran to the barn real fast, grabbed a couple traps, some oil. I didn't like the amount of beetles. Most of my hives had traps in them, so I don't know where that's at. I must have took them out at the end of the season. Oh well, we had to go in anyway to put the sugar on. Hadn't been in the bees in a while, and I always like to look at my bees. But I saw what I needed to see. They didn't have much honey, which I knew by picking it up. And now they're fed. So let's go to that nucleus colony that we looked at last week, and we'll refill that sugar. Okay, so we're back at this little nucleus colony we had open the other day. Yeah, they're done with that sugar. A little smoke to them. Yep, not stuck at all. There we go. And the sugar is gone. No beetles though, and of course you see those beetle traps. We'll uncover those a bit. So chewed that paper out, so we'll have to put a fresh piece of paper down. I normally don't have traps in the winter. That's probably why that other one didn't have them, but I left them in for whatever reason. And I'm kind of glad I did because it's a warm winter. The same thing with this one. Get that on there. Spray them down with some water. You wonder about that water. First, it's warm out right now. Second, I'm not dripping. It's not dripping on them. The paper's absorbing it. Third, the sugar's going to suck up some of it. You saw how much this little hive ate. It's much bigger than that other one. About 6 weeks to go before we don't have to worry about this. Yeah, let's open those traps. You know what, I'm not going to open those traps. There's not many beetles in here. So what I'm actually going to do, I know where they're at. I'm going to move the sugar over out of them. I don't want to fill those up with sugar. That way when I will open one of them. But, and I'll replace these traps in the spring. Probably not spring, more like the summer. That's when I usually put them in. That's it. That's all we got to do today. Everybody else is looking just fine. Everybody's coming home from a day out. Gathering pollen and hunting for nectar. Just rolling in. That's every hive. They had a lot out. Okay, just to sum it up, here's what we did. I took you through 2 weeks ago, or a week or so ago, checking hive weights. I checked all the weights on the hives. Everybody was heavy except that one hive we filled first. And the week before, I knew I had a nucleus colony, which we just filled now. That was light. So last week we showed you most all the sugar gone, and now you see it's all gone. And that one, we went ahead and filled it up and covered it, and went ahead and pulled it apart just to really get a visual on how much honey was in there, which there was about none. So they had a couple weeks to go. So this'll get them through. That's why it's called emergency feeding. Now, you wonder why I'm maybe not putting sugar syrup in, because it's warm enough for sugar syrup right now. But the problem with that is I use hive top feeders, and when I put those hive top feeders on, we're getting ready to have 29-degree weather, 28 degrees or so in a day or so. We'll have 30 degrees. It's going to go back up to the 60s again during the middle of the week. Then we're going to drop back into 30s and 40s. Okay, what that's going to do first is, foremost, 29 degrees is going to freeze half of the stuff. But what I found out with those hive top feeders, they have a plastic bottom. They tend to generate a ton of condensation. And what I don't want is condensation forming in these hives on those feeders, because then it can't run to the back or to the front, whichever way you have it leaning, and down the sides. It's dripping down on the bees. Then you have issues, because then when it gets cold again and they're wet, they'll freeze to death. Bees won't freeze in the cold if they can cluster and they're dry. When they freeze in the cold is if they're either weak and sick or they're wet. That's what I've learned. That's what I've been taught. So I go by that. So I use this emergency feed even when it's warm in the winter. They take care of it. If they don't like it or they have honey, they will literally drag that feed out. You can look at the front of the hive and see the sugar being pulled out. Then you know, hey, they're fine. They don't want it. I still leave it on there because they may use it. So that's why I don't use liquid feed this time of year. Could I? Yeah, and then I could take it off and put it back on, take it off, put it back on. I'm not going to do all that. I'm just going to throw sugar on there and it works fine. Now, with the sugar, I've tried sugar boards, not sugar boards, like I've made those sugar patties, fondant they call it. It's not like fondant for the cakes, it's basically hard sugar. They're convenient, they work good, but and I like them. I like sticking them on there. It's one piece, I stick it on, I walk away, no pouring or anything. Just wrap it in wax paper, unfold it, stick it on. What I've found though is this sugar method works just fine for me, and in my experience it has. So rather than sit around and mix up all that water and sugar and just to come put it on the hive for them to eat, I just pour it on there and be done with it. It has worked for me. 7 years and I've not had a hive die of starvation. I've had them die of other things, mites and weakness or sick or whatever the case may be. They've died. I've lost hives. I lose hives like everybody. But I haven't lost one to starvation that I know of, that I've seen after inspecting a dead one in the spring. Most of mine I tend to lose in October, which is telling me they had a high mite load and they perished because of the viruses that the mites gave them. The ones I've lost in the winter, I've lost them right around now, around January. Going into the spring though, I've never come across a hive that didn't make it through that weird part where they begin to put brood in, yet not have enough nectar. I've never had that problem. And I'm going to attribute that to emergency feeding. So now, do I feed all my bees? We went through this before. Absolutely not. I don't. I simply, because I'm not a commercial guy. I'm not raising bees. I'm not raising queens. If I was doing that, it'd be a whole different story. But I'm just a guy with, 20 to 30 hives that I keep on hand at most times, and I am feeding right now 2 of them. So, and one's a 5-frame nucleus colony, and I might have to feed a couple other nucleus colonies. We'll see in another few weeks. But I don't go out and just feed to be feeding. I feed out of necessity when I need to. So there you go. That's what I do. That's this day in a nutshell. That's what we went and did. I'm glad you could join me in this little outing, and we'll see what we come up with next time. Until then, this is Barry's Best Honey. I'm Mike, and I do bees. God bless y'all till next time. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. Share it with your friends. Share it with your workmates. Share it with your family. Y'all have a great one.